All right. Well, hello, whoever is watching. I am Jennifer and I am here with my client, Lauren. Lauren, thank you so much for being here today and for sharing your time, your energy. Lauren and I are going to have a conversation just with about the work that we've been doing together. Lauren and I have been working together since 2019, and I have just seen her really evolve and grow as an individual, and it's just been so amazing to see. And Lauren, why don't we start it off with just explaining a little bit about like, hey, who's Lauren? What do you do for fun? Like, what are you taking in school?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for that introduction. That was super sweet, and it's been such a pleasure to work with Jen. But just a little bit about me is I'm in my fourth year of undergrad at McMaster University, and I'm studying commerce. And I work part-time through the year, so I work for an education company. The school's in Switzerland, so it's really interesting to have those cross-cultural kind of communication and corporate kind of like inconsistencies to balance. So learning a lot through that. But beyond that, I've always been a pretty active person and a huge fan of the outdoors. I think I'm super solar powered, so I prefer the spring and the summer. That's when I really thrive. I love to hike and swim, and just be in the fresh air. And yeah, I'm a pretty simple gal, not much to it, but I think starting training with Jen and sort of like beginning my journey into fitness and wellness and the more holistic aspects of what it means to nourish yourself and strengthen your body, I really found a passion for weightlifting and exercise that was so different from my relationship with those things, or just different, from my relationship with kind of movement in general. And I think I've really found that movement is medicine, and it's something that I really love to do. So I kind of encourage anyone who's interested in maybe starting a coaching endeavor with Jen to think about that piece of it, that movement can be something that becomes a hobby or a passion for you.
For sure. And I think that's so important to mention because a lot of people will think of movement as like almost like a form of punishment for like, hey, like, oh my God, I ate a bunch of food. Like now I have to go punish myself with a workout. Whereas like, your relationship with it is completely like, I'm gonna take care of myself and I'm gonna lift and feel strong. And you've really stepped into that energy and it's been amazing to see.
Yeah.
What were some of the problems that you were facing, Lauren, before we started our coaching journey together? Like, why did you reach out to work with me?
Yeah. So I think three areas of my life that really were lacking were sleep, nutrition, and exercise. And even just more holistically, my relationship with each of those facets was really challenged. So, first of all, with sleep, I think probably as a product of anxiety, I spent most of my life never really getting adequate rest. I'm sure a lot of people can relate, but those sleepless nights, having trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, um, those nights and those months and years, they really compound. And I was not thinking clearly as a result of that. So I started to see sort of inadequate rest and lack of sleep as like a badge of honor. If I could do more and rest less, it felt like, I think, which a lot of people experience, like this kind of acclaim and this whole like idea of the hustle culture coming into play, that it was okay. But with you, Jen, and working on honing into sleep hygiene and starting to really focus on sleep as a fundamental piece of wellness, um, obviously just getting more adequate rest, I started to see things a lot more clearly, and I could notice that everything else will be able to fall into place much more easily if I am getting the proper sleep. Secondly, I would say with nutrition, it was something where we did an audit together. We had kind of checkpoints, and you provided resources that really laid things out so clearly. So I could see that the nourishment that I was giving myself was about more than just kind of hitting certain macros or counting calories, but it was a very well-rounded approach to what it was that food does for you, and more than just kind of, like I said, calories in, calories out, how it's serving you as energy, and how it really does nourish you from the inside out. And then I guess with exercise, I had been a competitive dancer growing up and was pretty active playing sports and running. And then as I transitioned out of those things, kind of leaving high school and starting university, not really knowing where I stood, um, it was daunting for me to even attempt like lifting weights, or if I was trying to do that, I probably had a lot of like shortcomings in my form and in my whole approach to it. So working with you and really having the structural foundation to properly lift weights and learn how to strengthen kind of from the inside out, it really transformed my relationship with what exercise could do, as I mentioned before. And I think that was something that will serve me for the rest of my life, because we do only get one body, and it's pretty neat to be able to zoom out and look at it as movement as a form of medicine, and movement as kind of a really important form of self-care, I think.
Yeah, you really, like, I want to say thrive with that. Like I like to refer to Lauren as like Mighty Mouse. Like you've
Oh,
become so strong in our time working together, and just seeing how strong you've gotten with like your squat, your deadlift. Like you have, thinking back to when I first started working with you, it's just like now who you are. It's just like, you have embodied that whole process of just like strengthening yourself, not only physically but mentally as well, which has been very powerful for you.
thank you.
Uh, I think you already answered this question, but what would be the biggest lesson that you've learned in our time together? Is it the fact of like, nourishment and like, how these modalities together just create that sense of like empowerment and feeling really strong? Or is there any other things that you learned that you want to share?
Yeah, I would say, to put it all together, because I think less is more, I think you've shown me that balance is wellness and wellness is balance. Because I have a tendency to ramble on and say a lot more than kind of my point that I'm trying to make. But as you said, all the modalities really can work together. But it's almost like just the symbol or the analogy of a scale, and like the shifting balances, how each side will adjust and life will ebb and flow. But if you can strive for balance, it really does contribute to overall well-being. And it's something that I work towards every day, and I'm sure a lot of people do, because it's not something you can just check off your list. It's something that requires continual effort.
For sure. It's not like we just like get to the end point. We're like, okay, we're good now. It's like the work, you are constantly doing the work. And I think that's a really important um component of it to share, is that hey, like there isn't this like end result where we're like okay, things are great now and I don't have to do any more work. Like we're always going to have to be putting in that work to regulate our nervous system and just making sure we're taking care of ourselves. And there's always room for improvement, and as you said, like life is just like this, so it's all
Yeah.
about riding those waves and learning from those experiences when we aren't up here and we're down here. What can we learn? What are the lessons that are meant for us to learn in this moment? And how do we come back to this part as a better version of ourselves?
Absolutely.
Love it. What would you say some of your biggest successes are that you've celebrated in the time that we've been working together?
Yeah, I think on a broader scale, I think some key milestones would be emotional and stress management, which are tools that will continue to serve me. Um, I think like it's just something that I wanted to recognize for myself as an area of growth, because I've always been a very emotional person, and when you feel really deeply, it can bring you a lot of joy, and it feels super fulfilling at points, but it can also be really overwhelming. So those kind of practices of having your stress and emotions um, in check was, I think, an exciting kind of milestone for me. I would say, just in general with nutrition and changing or sort of shifting my mindset around what it is that fuels me and how I can set myself up for kind of long term success and well being rather than um, sticking or kind of falling back into uh, past behaviors that were not serving me well. They were harmful and they were detrimental to my long term health. Trying to overcome those and taking it day by day, but also I think doing the work with you, we a large portion of it kind of healed my relationship with nutrition and food and body image, and definitely in the strength training realm, just achieving some personal bests. And it was so fun with you as my cheerleader, and just kind of surprising myself, I think surprising each other, that we could work on my mobility and the depth of my squats would increase and improve. And seeing how much I could deadlift when I would never imagine that I could pick up that kind of weight. That was a huge win for me, not because of the the numbers or the aesthetics, but I think you just prove to yourself that strength is something that can be built over time, and you kind of don't know that you have it in you, however trite that sounds. So a lot of really cool things to celebrate, I think, and just so much. I have so much gratitude to you because they're all products of working together, I would say.
Oh, thank you, Lauren. And I agree, like with your relationship with food has completely shifted since we started working together. And it's just been amazing to see because we've had that conversation where it's like, hey, like if you're not eating properly after your workouts, like if you want to continue to keep getting stronger, like yeah, it's not about the number that you're lifting and whatnot, but if you want to see progress and you want to feel strong, like you have to replenish your energy afterwards by eating food. And we are often taught like food's the bad guy, and like it builds this poor relationship with it when we can really transform that into like, hey, food is my fuel. It's going to help me feel more balanced emotionally, mentally. It's going to make me feel strong. It's going to help me build muscle. It's helping me with so many things. So once we're able to look at it in that sense, it completely changes the whole entire game.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. Why would you say coaching has been a good decision for you? What are some things that have changed in your life from it, and how do you feel now about health in general?
I would say that it was an excellent decision because to have the support and the inspiration from a coach like you, a coach that is so intuitive and charismatic and has the expertise, um, it's just an investment that you'll continue to see rewards from years on. And I think a lot of people might struggle with this. I know I do, but it's okay to reach out for support. And whether it's emotional support, nutritional guidance, like kind of guidance in the gym, whatever it might be, that programming that you gave me and just those checkpoints and the idea that you can have somebody to rely on that really understands you, um, that's been transformational for me. So I would say it was an amazing decision, and I would strongly urge whoever's listening or whoever's considering, just go for it, take the leap.
Oh, awesome. I know it is hard to when you've never given yourself permission to ask for help or like have that support, it's scary and we don't want to. It's almost like we can tell ourselves that story of like we're admitting defeat here or whatnot. But yeah, I agree. Like I have my own coaches and I've had coaches for years, and I feel like one of the fastest ways to get better at something that you're really, really have this like deep desire to achieve, the fastest way to do that is to get help from someone that's already walked that path and is able to show you how to get there in such a faster way than if you did it all on your own, which, it's saving you so much time and energy and failure. And, my whole job is to share how to miss all the mistakes that I made on my journey and to be like, hey, here's how we don't do that. Yeah.
That's a really
Do you have any final pieces of advice or wisdom that you'd like to share with someone who would be thinking about signing on and working with me in my program?
yeah. I feel like to wrap it up, you can probably tell I'm always kind of rumbling to get my message across, and I have a hard time finding the words. And I think to that extent, it's really difficult to articulate just how helpful it is to work with Jen. So I would say just take my word for it and experience it for yourself. I don't think I can articulate it kind of to the degree that it really does transform your life. So I would say try it out.
Oh, I love that. That was just so wonderful. That was like the fastest wrap up.
Yeah.
But it's straight to the point. You covered it all. Thank you so much, Lauryn. I really, really appreciate your time, your effort, your energy for meeting with me here today and for sharing just a little bit about, hey, like what have you done together? What have you achieved? Definitely your story is so powerful and an inspiration for others who might be struggling with their health right now. So thank you again. And thank you to whoever's watching this. And bye for now.
Yeah. Ciao.